Imagine a battery that stores grid-scale electricity for weeks and has a lifespan of 40 years while recharging thousands of times. The thermal batteries by Google X promises these points at one-tenth the cost of normal lithium-ion batteries. 31st of October 2021, about 200 countries reached to an agreement, the Glasgow Climate Pact, in Glasgow, Scotland. Several countries promised to combat carbon emissions and aimed for reaching a net zero carbon emission rate by at least 2050. This led to a strong push towards adopting renewable energy forms like solar, wind, and hydro, and moving away from traditional, unclean energy generation. This rate of switch was never seen before. Generating clean, renewable energy is one part of the problem, which today has some solutions. The bigger problem is about storing the energy generated from renewable sources, which can be put into use later. For example, in 2021, 30% of solar energy was wasted in California, which could have powered 325,000 houses. Similarly, 40% of windmills generate less energy than their capacity in certain parts of China. In both the examples, lack of energy storage remains a major cause. Electricity from solar and wind depends heavily on climatic conditions. On a sunny or windy day, high electricity will be generated, but in the absence of sun or strong winds, energy generation is affected. Similarly, the demand for electricity fluctuates throughout the day. This demand can be balanced by storing excess electricity generated and later supplying back to the grid when needed. Project Malta is the idea behind storing electricity in thermal batteries made up of hot molten salt and cold antifreeze. Thermal batteries work on simple principles of thermodynamics, that is, heat pump and heat engine. When electricity is supplied to these batteries, it is fed to a device that creates a temperature difference by pumping heat from one part of the air to the other. The part that gets the heat energy becomes hot and gets stored in molten salt container, and the part from which heat energy was removed becomes cold and gets stored in the cold antifreeze container. This is just like air conditioners in our houses, except that air conditioners remove heat from our rooms and leave to the atmosphere. In this way, electricity is converted into heat energy and stored for several weeks. When the demand for electricity increases, the stored temperature difference is released to a turbine, resulting in a high-speed torrent that rotates the turbine blades, generating electricity. This electricity is then sent back to the grid. In other words, the containers containing hot molten salt and cold antifreeze work as two ends of a battery. Project Malta transformed into an independent company, Malta Incorporation, and is working to set up a 100 megawatt solar power plant as a concept demo. This resembles to pure molten salt batteries, which are better than the lithium-ion ones. At the scale of storing grid energy, lithium-ion batteries become expensive with increasing costs as they age, along with a degrade in efficiency as they recharge. Hence, they have a short lifespan and needs protection from overcharging. Thermal batteries are made up of abundant and inexpensive materials that can be charged thousands of times, lasting for more than 40 years. For example, salt is inexpensive and never needs replacement. Molten salt and antifreeze storage containers are made up of cost-effective steel. Till date, Malta Incorporation has raised over $80 million in funding and is backed by breakthrough ventures, having investors like Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Jack Ma, to name a few.